Warning: the subject matter discussed in this video includes content that contains flashing imagery. Viewer discretion is advised. What is the strangest channel on YouTube? There probably isn't a single answer. Heck, it's very subjective. However, I'm very confident in saying that the one I'll discuss in this video is a good answer. Have you ever heard of Mother 3? I'm not talking about the game, I'm talking about this channel. It's a shitpost channel, alright, but it's a very unique one. To see what I'm talking about, let's take a look at one of its videos, shall we?
I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees.
What on earth did I just watch? This is the subject matter. The Lorax is basically the main protagonist, if you can even define anything as such in these videos, and some psychedelic shit happens, well, most of the times, as the channel actually has some artistic variety in its shitposting, but they're all either very absurd, disturbing, very meta, or all of the three at once. References to the game Mother 3 are incredibly distorted and not apparent at all, despite the channel presenting itself as being dedicated to that game. Hell, the videos are all titled Mother 3, every single one of them. And so is every single video description, every single comment it leaves in each video, every single community post is titled Mother 3. Now, that's what true dedication looks like. This channel looks so out of place, especially for someone like me that had not played the game by the time they got this channel recommended. No, I'm playing it while making this video, and I gotta say, it's a great game. And it seemed so absurd even to someone like me that's definitely used to seeing absurd memes and content on the internet. And when I got this channel recommended, I knew I had to dig deeper. This whole thing is obviously made as a joke, but by trying to analyze it and understand how it came to be, I think there is a lot to be learned. I personally believe that memes, while being usually silly in nature, are a complex result of their environment. And there is a lot of merit in analyzing how they came to be, especially in cases like this where there are a lot of layers. This channel is about a very beloved and influential game, a very important piece of modern children's literature, and the ever-evolving irony that the internet is so obsessed with. I hope you learned something from this video, as I've done in researching for it. Here's the first piece of the puzzle. Mother 3, and this time I mean the actual game. Long story short, Mother is a trilogy of RPG games about kids with psychic powers embarking on wacky adventures to ultimately combat a recurring alien invasion. They are characterized by their meta humor, which was very innovative for the time, and the imaginative scenarios and characters presented them. They're also heavily based on American culture, as opposed to RPG's usual fantasy settings. In particular, Mother 3 follows Lucas and its family, of which you get to choose all the members' names, including the dog, and the struggles of said family in facing off against a race of what seem to be pig-like creatures that come from UFOs and transform animals into stronger and aggressive cyborgs, because, as these pigs say, the creatures of this planet suck. And the consequences they bring upon Lucas' peaceful home village that's surrounded by nature. The game is fun gameplay-wise, especially the combat, which revolves around hitting the A button to match the rhythm of the battle of the music to do more damage. Fun stuff. But the most important aspect is definitely the narrative. I won't do much spoilers beyond the beginning of the game because, as I said before, I tried playing the game while making this video and I get it now. I get why it's considered by some as one of the greatest games of all time.
I get it.
And you should at the very least give it a try as well. I don't want to ruin the fun if you intend to do so. Anyway, the game has a recurring environmental theme and holds a critique of industrialization and its negative effects on nature. It's very apparent from the get-go, for the wildfire of Luca's home village, which was purposely set by the pig-like creatures, and is pretty similar to some real-life industries. Unfortunately, that's something that happens. The previously named cyborgs, but also by the appearance of some enemies, which the characters of the game describe as mysteriously appearing in the forest after a wildfire happened. And you can probably imagine what happened to them, especially since they appear to primarily be mutated laboratory rats. But what does all of this have to do with this? It will come together in the next section of it. Put a pin on it, boop, and keep it in mind for later, trust me. I'm simply asking you to subscribe! I'm simply asking you to be a bit patient. The game series, while not being in the minds of the mainstream gaming audience, has definitely left its mark on history. I mean, it is very popular in Japan, and even in the West, it did inspire countless game developers. Most notably, it's the main inspiration behind the creation of Undertale. It has a very devoted fan base, and that's putting it lightly. They adore the game, so much so that they even translated all of it in English to make sure that more people can enjoy it. Wait, why did they need to translate the game? Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that it never came out outside of Japan? I mean, you probably already knew that if you're a gaming connoisseur or a Nintendo fan beyond Mario and Zelda. It's a very complicated topic, but long story short, the game has a lot of copyright issues, from the music being heavily inspired by many famous songs, especially some works from the Beatles, some other obvious reference, did I mention the Beatles yet? And on top of that, there is an in-universe race that's androgynous and has a fashion style which is very reminiscent of gay people and could easily be misunderstood as a gay caricature in the West. These are matters that don't hold the game back from being published in Japan, but they definitely do in the West, especially the United States. And the game could only be released after like a lot of touch-ups. It would require so many changes to reach the West, and it would lose a lot of its identity and would definitely disappoint fans of the game. It would be a very compromised vision, which is definitely very bad for an RPG. If you want to delve more into this topic, I encourage you to watch Moon Channel's video on the subject matter, which I will link in the description and which has been very helpful for research. So, despite Mother 1 and 2, aka Earthbound, being able for some miracle to be released in the West multiple times, Mother 3 will likely never be officially localized. The fans are endlessly waiting for a release that will likely never happen. Now, what does a fandom do in a situation like this? The answer is, sometimes, they resort to shitposting as a way to entertain themselves with new content regarding the game and as a way to express their quote-unquote insanity stemmed from the endless wait. That's exactly what happened in the Hollow Knight fandom and in the Pikmin fandom as well. Hollow Knight for Silksong and Pikmin for Pikmin 4. But it's not just a lack of content that causes this insanity. There are many niche fandoms of series that are dormant for even more than 2 decades, which are not in this state. What really drives fandom to this is when there is a sort of end goal, when there is a glimmer of hope for the next chapter, when it is promised to be out fairly soon, but the reality will end up being in development hell and be delayed to what seems like infinity. It's like there is a carrot with a stick, and the stick is the next installment of a game, And you know, the carrot seems so close, seems in reach, but each time you get closer to it, it gets moved further. And it will actually take a lot of time to reach it. I hope that makes sense. That's when a fandom gets really frustrated with the wait and expresses their disappointment as them going insane. I mean, Pikmin 4 was confirmed to exist in an interview in 2015, where Miyamoto talked about it, and its words were translated in a way that said that the game was very close to competition, but for years we got nothing. We knew the franchise wasn't dead, as a 3DS spin-off came out in 2017, wasn't an amazing game, but it's something. And later Pikmin 3 got re-released on the Switch in 2020 and got a good port, but it took until 2022 to have an actual trailer of the actual Pikmin 4 coming out, which likely would come out in 2023 and not 2030 for some miracle. So yeah, that was 7 agonizing years of endless wait. After Pikmin 3 already took 9 years to come out since Pikmin 2. Yeah. Even to this day, the fandom has a very unhinged sense of humor and an affinity for shitposting, despite actually having Pikmin 4 in our hands. Silksong was confirmed to exist back in E3 2019, and even got a demonstration of the game, and they said it will come out in 2020. And you know, 2020, pandemic, postponed to 2021, you know, that was very understandable. But then in 2021 we still hadn't seen no other footage of the game, and it was delayed again for 2022. Then in 2022 the same thing happened. 2023 we had the lead director of the game posting a Discord announcement about the matter, and that's the last we heard of Silksong in a long time. It's 2025 and there's still no sign of it. Hopefully it will come out soon enough so that my grandchildren will be able to play it. Both of these cases generated great amounts of frustrations and also boredom, because I mean, shitpost can also be a result of boredom. If there's no game to play, you gotta entertain yourself somehow, and this is the result. Mother 3 is an even more tragic case, because, I mean, we know the game exists. Hell, I mean, technically it came out already, multiple times actually, but all in Japan, and the Western release will likely never be. That's how this channel came to be. It's an ironic expression of the admiration for the game combined with the frustration of having to wait for a release that might never come. It's really unhinged and self-contained, just like the Pikmin and Hollow Knight shitpostings. However, there is still one question remaining. Of all things, why the Lorax? I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. We have to analyze the Lorax and its impact on meme culture. And to do that, we need to look at the very beginning. The Lorax is a creature invented by Dr. Seuss in the book of that same title in 1971. He is a guardian of the forest he lives in, and can speak to the trees, for the trees have no tongue. This book is very quotable. He states it every time he talks. Said trees, the Traphilus trees, have a silk-like material on top, in place of the leaves, a material that can be harvested and used to create many potential products. The book, all narrated in verses and rhymes, sees a mysterious character named the Answer as the protagonist, and the way he disturbs the natural forest by cutting down the Traphilus trees for its own benefits, has realized the business potential of said material. The Answer doesn't have a face, because anybody could be in. It's made in so that the children reading the book can identify anyone as him, and because, truth be told, anybody could become him. Heck, I mean, by referring to it as him, I'm giving myself an identity, and it's purely my interpretation. It could be a she, it could be a they them, it could be whatever you want. Anyway, the Answer's actions start pretty tame, and to the Lorax's initial concerns, he says, "Look, Lorax, calm down. There's no need to alarm. I've chopped down just one tree. I'm doing no harm." But gradually his business becomes an economic empire, and as it does, pollution appears as a consequence. More and more cars, symbols of industrialization, come to the place. More buildings are built, the business expands, and the fauna begins to leave, species after species. The Lorax tries multiple times to reason with the Answer, stating that he speaks for the trees, but to no avail. He becomes pretty desperate as he sees what happens to the forest. Namely, he says, "They say I'm old-fashioned and lived in the past, but sometimes I think progress progresses too fast. Which I personally find a quote that very adequately expresses this scary rapid growth of industrialization. The Chancellor seems at some point to start to realize that what he's doing is wrong, but he just proceeds to go back to his ways, dismissing the Lorax, more and more convinced that this is the natural consequence of progress. Consequences be damned. At the peak of his enterprise, tired of the Lorax quote-unquote speaking for the trees, he says probably the most important line of the entire book. I speak for men and human opportunities. For your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering, turning more traveling trees into needs, which everyone needs. This is it. This is the point of no return. Short after, the last tree of the forest is cut down. The animals are all gone, and at that point, even the Lorax leaves. But not after giving the Chancellor a very serious and judging look, which he will never forget. Said Chancellor is now left in a wasteland, and at this point it reveals that he was the narrator of the story all along, and he was narrating to a child, which represents the target audience of the book, and is the last hope. He gives him a seed of truculent tree, the last one remaining, and tells him to take care of it, nurture it, make sure it grows healthy, to help nature flourish again. Because really, for Dr. Seuss, the only real solution to industrialization is to warn the newer generations of the consequences of it, to care for nature, so that in the future, the world will be a better place. And because, I mean, the book is aimed towards children, so it makes sense. I highly encourage you to read the book, or to watch the 1972 cartoon adaptation that follows the book very closely, which you can easily find on YouTube. It's a great adaptation that respects the author's original visions, and is basically their illustrations coming to life. It's really neat stuff. It's also not too long, under half an hour, so yeah, give it a watch. However, the same cannot be said for another adaptation, one that completely destroys the message of the original, just like the Chancellor destroyed the forests. You know which one I'm talking about. I mean, you knew this was coming. We're gonna talk about Illumination's 2012 adaptation. Illumination made like 2 actually good movies out of 15, and The Lorax is definitely not one of them. Heck, it's arguably their most infamous. It has a bland corporate visual style, which clashes with Dr. Seuss' vision, makes the Chancellor a conventionally attractive young boy that's completely oblivious to the harm he's done, instead of a character too convinced in its ways to accept the truth that's right in front of them, and which can represent any potential businessman or businesswoman or whatever, and introduces a new villain that's too much of a joke to be taken seriously, and which gets defeated, and the Chancellor is completely dream, and the ending loses all meaning of the original. Not to mention the marketing while the Lorax promotes a car, a freaking car, that adly received a lot of backlash when it aired, because, I mean, what the fuck. The movie became a meme for a variety of reasons. It's such a horrible adaptation. I mean, it's not the worst movie by itself, but it's definitely a horrible adaptation. Like, how can you butcher something this bad? Actually, I know how. By compromising on the vision the creatives on these movies had. Illumination has had a big cultural impact on meme culture over the last decade, both for ironic and unironic reasons. I mean, Despicable Me is very iconic, and the memes were like everywhere in 2010. The movie is bad, as we said, but it does have a lot of memeable moments, like this moment, or this, and many others. And some people found ironic enjoyment out of it. The main song of the movie, because yes, it's a musical, the main song of the movie, How Bad Can I Be, was immediately pretty catchy and entered the minds of many people and took off in popularity. Albeit it's not nearly as good as the cat song Biggering, which I heavily encourage you to go check out because it's really good. And lastly, many people on Tumblr thought, this young boy looks really sexy. and he became Mr. Tumblr Sexy Man for some reason, I don't know. This is a rabbit hole in itself. Now, I'm doing this for research. What the fuck? This movie, combined with the place in literature history the Lorax already had, is what really cemented the Lorax in meme culture, which is why it lends itself really well for a channel focused on shitposting. However, you may have noticed that the channel icon isn't based on Dr. Seuss artworks, nor Illumination's 3D renders. Where does it come from? It's actually from an even more recent adaptation, that being the musical adaptation of 2018 adaptation. It's a puppet show aimed at children, and from what I've seen it was very well received. This is where this puppet comes from, and as far as I'm aware, this channel is one of the very first to use it in memes, which to me is really a sign of the creator being a fan of the Lorax. Now that we've completed the puzzle, it's time to analyze the full picture, this time with a lot more understanding of what we're dealing with. The Lorax is at the forefront of the channel because it looks like a very oddball choice and not what you would expect when searching for Mother-Free related content. But as we established, Mother-Free and the Lorax have a very similar environmentalist message. That is the main common element between the two works, and it's very possible that the creator of the channel likes both of them for that same reason. Not to mention, the Lorax visual design is pretty imaginative, and it's a very iconic and mystical design in a sense, and you could very easily put it in the Mother universe without it looking out of place. I mean, look at that. It fits like a glove. It does have a similar appeal to the Mother franchise, I believe. You have both relevant to shitposting, the Lorax because it has a big impact on meme culture, and Mother-Free can easily lend itself to the insane style of shitposting, just like other fandoms. And with these two elements together, and a clear inspiration from sometimes analog horror, sometimes deep-fried memes, sometimes something else entirely, this is the result. It's content for the niche that is the Mother fandom, that draws influence from the general internet culture, mainly the Lorax, to create something unique. It's an expression of the love for both works from the creator's perspective. I mean, you wouldn't have this type of dedication if you didn't love both the Lorax and Mother. Following this channel is a treat, especially since, as I mentioned, the content has quite the variety. The personal favorites are the ones I showed at the beginning of the video, since it's the most trippy one, and these are the videos where we see the perspective of someone in bed that sees an apparitions of one of its other videos, which I found a really effective attempt at recreating a dreamlike environment. This is easily a nightmare you could have had as a kid. It's a really well executed. This channel is really an artistic avenue for the creator, and from the first videos to the more recent one, you can see how it evolved from immediately simple edits to something a lot more complex. The evolution of an artist, if you will. And it is something which I relate to, since for a few years I've also focused myself on memes, and if you watch my meme history you can definitely see how I came from very simple like beginner level editing software utilization to like meme videos with a lot more moving parts. As it stands, the channel still has many mysteries. Namely, we have no idea about the identity of the person that runs it all, nor what the meaning of most of these videos are, if there is any actual meaning to these videos. But I like to keep it that way. I mean, I've already analyzed it a lot, and keeping these mysteries makes it more fascinating in a way. It's part of the appeal. Hopefully you learned something today that can help you in understanding memes, and by extension, modern culture as a whole. As I said at the very beginnings, memes are very silly in nature, but they come from specific contexts, which I think has a lot of merit in being analyzed. You can learn a lot by doing so. That's gonna be it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe for more content and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.